Alrighty guys, it is Qaaman here today, and for those of you who will say that I am late to the party, just understand that I've been hacked, I lost monetization, and I got a community strike all within the last 2 weeks, so things are getting better, but we still have a long ways to go. And let's just be brutally honest, this is by far the most exciting year that Dragon Ball fans have had in quite a while, so to play a little psychological trick here, let's start off with the most positive thing first. And we are going to start off with the Sparking Zero Goku vs. Vegeta Rivals trailer. Now, a lot of you guys counted, based off of all of the darkened, I guess you could say, hives in the background, that there's 164 characters that are going to be available in this game. Now, to be completely honest with you, I actually thought that was kind of underwhelming, considering the fact that even though the trailer itself was fantastic, when you consider the fact that when you look specifically at the background and all of the characters that were being filled in, a lot of these are basically different variants of Goku and stuff, and when you also factor in that there have been so many new Dragon Ball characters that have been added to the Dragon Ball franchise over the course of all of those years, I actually thought the number would be significantly higher. However, I am still extremely optimistic for this because obviously I'm assuming there's going to be DLC that's going to add to this roster, because when fans demand something, it's only going to increase. But one thing that I really loved about this trailer specifically is it starts off in a very, very well-designed way where you kind of get a snippet of what we had seen in the previous teaser trailer, but then when we actually get to the meat of everything, we actually get a chance to see Goku and Vegeta going through all of the different forms. And I really felt like it was kind of like a mini movie in a trailer, where we as fans know what Goku and Vegeta have gone through all of these years to attain all of these transformations. And the biggest question that I feel most people probably wonder about all of this is, obviously, Ultra Instinct is, you know, expected to come into the game, but will Ultra Ego be a part of this? Because we didn't see Ultra Instinct versus Ultra Ego in the trailer, and I'm pretty sure that's what fans were waiting for, because beyond Super Saiyan Blue and Blue Kaioken and Blue Evolution Vegeta and all of these different forms, that's truly where Goku and Vegeta stand right now when it comes to how powerful they are at their peaks, considering the fact that, you know, they just used these forms in the previous arc, well, should I say the arc before the previous arc, against Gas and Granola, and also, I mean, I guess you could say Black Frieza is still a threat in the universe, which is also another question as to whether or not Black Frieza is going to get into the game, because we haven't really seen Black Frieza do much outside of defeating Gas and briefly defeating Goku and Vegeta. So all of this is awesome. I feel like they made a lot of awesome callbacks with the specific movements, like how Vegeta tilted his head when he went into his Super Saiyan God form. I also feel like having Vegeta as a Super Saiyan God is also cool, because it's not something that we really got a chance to see pretty much at all in the anime version. It's something that we really got to see in the movie against Broly, and then also in the manga. So having Super Saiyan God Vegeta really adds a very unique element to the game that people who have followed the Super anime really didn't get a chance to see. So all of that's really good, and I just guess one more snippet that I thought was cool is when you see Goku and Vegeta like going through all of their forms and powering up, how we saw like Super Saiyan 3 Goku versus Majin Vegeta, even though like Super Saiyan 2 Goku was like matched with him. I do kind of feel like, I guess Vegeta's equivalent to Super Saiyan 3 would be his Majin form, or like the closest approximation to it. And I felt like even though that would be a completely one-sided fight, all of this was amazing. And also the dialogue, the English dialogue specifically, was very well acted off. Obviously the mouth flapping isn't perfect, but we can't be nitpickers here. So ultimately, I feel like the trailer did a phenomenal job. Now, moving on to the next thing here, we are going to talk about Dragon Ball Daima. Now, here's the thing. If you're just looking at this trailer objectively on its own, with no biased Dragon Ball fanboy opinions of what could actually happen and so on and so forth, it's not a bad trailer at all. Now, granted, as we've heard in previous news leaks and, you know, discussions, this is a lot more kid-friendly than we've seen before, but there are some good things that I like about it. I kind of like the, you know, the flashback, simplistic, more martial arts-driven style where, you know, not all of the characters are just punching and kicking each other super fast by flying. Like, this is actually focusing more on the actual animation of the martial arts moves that Goku's doing, which is something that we really just haven't seen that much since OG Dragon Ball, and I feel like having that back would be a fresh twist. The thing is, and the question that we have to answer, and I'm not trying to be a negative Nancy, I'm just speaking for Dragon Ball fans when I say this, it looks cute, but are Dragon Ball fans really into this? Like, search your feelings, Luke. You know it'd be true. You know, just like when Vader was talking to Luke in Cloud City, it's kind of like, is this what we really wanted? And that's the question that we have to ask. Like, it's a fine trailer, but I feel like the overwhelming majority of us who are in our 20s and 30s, we didn't expect or want this. And even if the trailer looks cool and the animation looks beautiful, which I will say, man, I mean, this animation is gorgeous. I'm not an animation expert, but one of my favorite pieces of Dragon Ball animation going back to old school would have to be going back to the classic Path to Power. I feel like Path to Power had really, really underrated animation. I love Path to Power, that whole GT-esque kind of style with a modern twist. I felt that that was beautiful. And I feel like Daima definitely has its own style, and Toriyama's going to have a lot of involvement, so I feel like if you can discontinue your previous Dragon Ball bias and look at all of the outset of what we're going to get, and just empty your brain and look at this for what it is, I think Daima can really be cool. I feel like the character designs were obviously very kid-friendly compared to the more mature designs we've had in Dragon Ball's past. You know, we have that character that looks kind of like a rip-off of Drum, and there also seem to be like what people refer to as mutated Namekian kind of characters. There seems to be a few of them, but, you know, they're more kid-friendly, goofy-looking villains that we saw in the background that I don't think look the most intimidating, but like I said, I'm still curious to see where we're gonna go with this, so I have my hopes high that this Daima show will at least be watchable, considering the fact that the animation already looks really good, and also considering the fact that we're going to get something completely different from anything we've ever seen before, so we can empty our brains and not just expect the same kind of thing that we've been fed to for years, even though our bodies are used to eating that kind of food. Now, apart from the Dragon Ball Daima trailer, I wanted to spend a few minutes talking about the direction of Dragon Ball Super. Now, Dragon Ball Super is probably the most interesting thing that Dragon Ball fans are looking forward to this year, but we gotta admit that from a storytelling perspective, Super still technically exists, and it's still going in its own direction via the manga. And I'll be honest with you, I thought the last chapter was the best chapter that we've had in a while. Now, that's not to say that this whole superhero arc was terrible. I didn't think it was bad. I just feel like the problem is that the overwhelming majority of fans already saw the movie, so because of that, we're looking at this manga chapter and saying, you're just gonna rob an entire year of my life because I already know everything that's gonna happen before it happens. So the chapters weren't bad, it's just that there weren't enough new things to really incentivize us into really having interest in it, which is why I feel like the last chapter was really cool, because we're seeing completely original content, like completely original content, which I feel is really cool now, because considering the fact that Vegeta's trailing with Broly, they're referring to Black Frieza, so it's good to know that Toriyama and Toyotaro have not completely forgotten Black Frieza. And considering the fact that we assume Frieza has to die, because at the end of Dragon Ball Z, or the original Dragon Ball manga, it's assumed throughout the course of the story that Frieza was supposed to be assumed dead. Considering that, I mean, if you're going with the anime version, you see him with all their villains in the afterlife. And also, he had died before, and there was no thing in the 10-year time skip that would have suggested Frieza came back. So, we assume that if you're trying to tie all loose ends, Frieza has to die again, which means that we're going to most likely see a Black Frieza arc, which is something that I think a lot of Dragon Ball fans are looking forward to. Now, granted, Frieza is the most reused villain in the history of Dragon Ball. We don't have to go through all of the times that he's been reused. But it's one of those things where if you can't think of anything new to entertain Dragon Ball fans, just go with a working product that has been proven to work, which is just reusing Frieza over and over and over again. And overall, with that said, these are my thoughts on the manga, the game, and the new anime that's coming out.